this video, I will share with you an interview that I did with a seasoned preschool teacher, and she will be able to share with you some great ideas and some tips, as well as tell a little bit about her experience in the classroom. If you stick around to the end, she'll show you an item that she created and used in her classroom to help engage and manage the class. So stay tuned. Hello, Lily.
Hello.
We have known each other for quite some time, probably like about 20 something years, like
Mhm.
since 2000, 2001, something like that.
Yes.
And we worked together for a few of those years. I've seen, I talked to you about teaching and stuff like that. So the reason why I wanted to invite you to the YouTube channel is just to do an interview, because I think that it's good for new teachers to get other perspectives, especially from veteran teachers that have been in it a while. And you have been in early childhood education for a really long time. So how many years have you been in early childhood?
This coming school year would make it actually 29 years that I've been in this field.
29 years. So that means you have like a whole bunch of knowledge and wisdom to bring to or to give to new teachers. So I
Mhm.
think that what we're going to do is I'm just going to ask you some questions, and if you can just think about like your whole experience as, all 29 of your years, not just where you are currently, but your overall experience and any kind of like tidbits that you can add to help new teachers as they are coming in to the field. That would be great as well. So again, you said that you've been working for 29, or you've been in this field for 29 years. What ages have you worked with?
A mixture of 3s and 4-year-olds I've been
Threes-
working with. Mhm.
Oh, okay, awesome. So threes and fours. Do you have a preference?
Actually, I enjoy working with both 3s and 4s, but I know with 4-year-olds, there's so much more that you could teach them compared to, 3-year-olds. But yeah, it's both. I enjoy both.
Okay. So what capacity did you work in these 29 years, like the positions that you held and stuff like that?
The type of positions I held, well, when I first started this field, I started out as a teacher assistant, and as the years went by, the center director, from many years ago, she felt that I was capable of running my own classroom. She had that, faith in me, and then I became, of course, a teacher. I was just basically back and forth, teacher, TA, and now currently I am a teacher, and I do work for a Head Start program.
Okay.
You know,
What is it that you love about teaching little ones that has kept you in the field for so long?
watching them learn, just seeing these innocent children just absorbing things like a little sponge. It's like you could stand at the end of the classroom, and as they're playing in their centers, it's like there could be one student that's literally imitating you.
Mm.
To say in the house area, they're like, oh, I'm the teacher, I'm Miss Lily, and so on. Just seeing all that, it's just amazing just watching the kids learning.
Right, right. I know that could be a good thing and that could be a bad thing. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
preschool teachers, make sure you watch what you say
Yes, yes,
what you
definitely.
do around
Yes,
those children.
I totally agree. Yes, yeah, yes.
Uh, because they will tell you about yourself without telling you about yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Um, was there ever a point that you felt like, you wanted to like, okay, maybe this isn't for me, or, it's harder than I thought, and you wanted to like leave the field?
Oh yeah, plenty of times. It actually goes for any job that you have. It's like you start thinking, is this for me? But being in this field, yeah, I've experienced that where I'm like, okay, is this is what I really want? And when I go through those moments of feeling like that, it's when I feel that I'm not able to reach the children as a
Mhm.
learning aspect, because I start to blame myself. Am I doing something wrong? Is this meant for me? things like that.
And I'm glad you brought that up, that you can feel that way in any job or any career choice that you pick. Like, you may have a bad couple of months or, whatever, but if you stick it out, and obviously you've stuck it out for a long time
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
you felt that strongly about what you were doing, right? To stay in it.
Mhm.
So that's encouraging also so that new teachers know that your first year may be hard. Your first year
Oh,
may be
definitely.
hard.
Yes. Yes,
Was
it is. It is very hard, in the very beginning, because you have to understand. It depends, I guess, what center you're at. But based on my experience, there's always 15 students in the classroom. And just knowing that you're responsible for each and every student, making sure that you attend to each and all of their needs. And so, yeah, it could be really tough. You could have, your good days. And of course, you're going to have your bad moments,
right,
you
right.
know.
Was there anything, what was it that encouraged you to, like, you know what, I had a bad day, or this isn't going as according to plan, but made you, keep going?
The children, believe it or not, the children. Even
Mhm.
though I felt like I at a point that I wasn't reaching to them, but it's the children. Children are innocent. And just for the fact, I mean, this is something that I love to do, and the children are the ones that keep me going. Because every day I'm learning something new, the children are learning something new. We're both getting to know each other, and so on. And it's just mostly the children.
Right, right. They
you
can
know.
yes. For me, it was just knowing that the first day, the first week, or the first month is not going to be an indicator necessarily of what the rest of your year is going to look like.
Yes,
And
I totally agree.
and yeah, and I think that, if you can get past that first day, first week, first month, then you know that you will be able to get through it.
Yes. Yes. Yes,
If you can make it
definitely.
through that, you can get through anything throughout that school year.
I totally agree. Yeah, because like you said, in the beginning of the school year, yeah, you're gonna have your rough moments. You're gonna have children who've never experienced coming into school before, just them detaching from their parents, all that, it's expected. But as the days, the weeks go by, it starts to, become a little bit easier,
Right,
you
right.
know.
So tell us a little bit about your beginnings. If you remember, what was it like that first year, your first year as the teacher in the room?
To be honest with you, is scary and exciting at the same
Mm-hmm.
time. Because, like I said, scary for the fact is because I'm knowing I'm going to have all these children under my care, and making sure that I'm going to be able to do what I'm supposed to, be doing and referring to their needs. Exciting because just having the opportunity that here I'm going to be able to teach little ones, me learning and them learning at the same time, because we're both learning. It's both. I would say, you know.
I think that was an important point that you brought up just now about not only their learning, but your learning as well. And
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times in my experience, as in terms of like meeting new teachers, they think they have to have it figured out from day one, and that's not the case.
No, no, it's not.
What you and one another thing that I've experienced is what you learn in school is not necessarily what you see in the classroom.
I agree. Yes, it's
Yeah.
100% true. Yes.
Yeah.
What you're being taught in school is not what you're going to experience in the classroom. Every classroom is going to be different. Every school year is going to be different. You're not going to always have that perfect, class,
Right.
classroom. But yeah, you learn each, basically every year.
Right. And every year you learn, and I do believe that every child you have will teach you something. Will
Yes.
definitely teach you something. So looking back at that first year, or those first couple years, as the teacher in the classroom, they always say hindsight is 2020. What would you have done differently, if
I think
anything?
I think maybe The moments I think maybe when it would have gotten, I guess, a little bit chaotic in the classroom is to basically do a little bit more of my research, um, talk more to my colleagues, to get an insight, ones who've been in my field way longer than I have, or even somebody who just started new. Who's to say they might have come up with an idea that's something that I'm not aware of. But yeah, just basically just doing more research,
Right, right.
to be able to have, a less chaotic classroom, when it does happen.
I think you hit on another good point of like using your resources, using what you have available. You have other teachers in the school that can give insight into how to go about doing certain things, how to handle certain situations. And what other kind of research were you talking about? Were you talking about looking in books and stuff like that, or?
I'm just looking online,
Okay.
going online, yeah, and just learning about ways to, ideas of how to run, a smooth, classroom when the students, become disruptive, like things like that, how to go about it.
Right, right. So,
Mhm.
yeah, that's definitely a key is to be resourceful, like tap into everything that you have available to you to help you get over those bumps and humps
Mhm.
throughout the year. As you look over your years in the field, in the many classrooms that you've been in, the many children that you've worked with, what is something that you can say is like the most valuable thing that you've learned during that time?
Being consistent. Everything has to be through my years of teaching is just being repetitive in the classroom. As much as, there might be times, when the children are probably getting tired of hearing it, but for the fact is, it's just making sure that you're explaining, your classroom rules, classroom jobs, just being very repetitive
Mhm.
so that way you could be able to have, a smooth classroom and nobody's surprised, taken by surprise that of they're not aware of what they're supposed to be doing, in the classroom. But consistency, I feel, and always be prepared, definitely.
Okay. What are some tips on preparing?
Preparing, I would say, when it comes to a lesson, don't wait the last minute. Like, say if you're sitting in circle time with the children, children don't really understand as, I guess, time, especially like 3-year-olds, they start to get antsy. Always make sure you have all your materials in place, right before you're going to teach. Because me, from experience, there's been in the past where I might be missing some sort of material that I need to be able to teach the kids. And at the same time, the kids are all of a sudden paying attention. So it's always good to have everything in hand right
Right,
there.
right. Yeah, I when I was in the classroom, I like to over prepare.
Mhm.
Because sometimes what you have available to you, even if you're in the middle of a lesson, if it's not working, if it's just not hitting, you have to come up with something
With
else.
some plan. Yes.
Yeah. So sometimes being over prepared. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I like how, but I do like what you said about being consistent as well. I think a lot of times when new teachers go into the classroom, they sometimes think that they only have to say things only a couple times and then they should get it. And it's not like you're talking to an adult where you say something or give directions to an adult and then they get it. With a child, you have to like if you're gonna sound like you're repeating yourself over and over again, you should always say it one more time because you never know like when it's going to actually start sinking in. So and it's just helpful, like it's helpful to know that you aren't being annoying to them, but you're just ensuring that they are able to follow through to the next thing that
Right.
you know so
Yes, because I'm consistent from day one all the way till the end of the school year.
yeah. Yeah.
Just a reminder, consistently, you
Yes.
know.
Yes. So you were just talking about how you were giving advice as to how to create like a smooth class, a smooth running class, or you said that you would do some research or ask your coworkers to help you out, to help you get over those humps if you were looking back at your career. When you talk about a successful school year, what would be your definition of a successful school year?
A smooth running classroom
Okay.
where
Let me change the question and say, what does it look like? You're in the classroom. What is it that you see that's you're like, wow, this is a successful year. Pat, pat,
when you
pat.
when you see your students play nicely in their centers and they're following the routines, you don't have to be over their shoulder. That's how I know when I felt like I was doing something right. Like they know what's expected,
Right.
on their own. It's,
Mhm. And
but
just for like the new teachers, we're not talking about perfection, like
mm-mm.
everyone's in line and they're walking straight.
No.
No, that's not what we're talking about here. Here, when you say a smooth running classroom, everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. What else? Like, what are the exceptions? Because there may be some exceptions. For instance, like I've had years where you had to work a little bit harder with the child, or you had to accommodate some of um your behaviors to help a child along so that they can be successful. um
Mm-hmm.
what are some other things, because I don't want to scare any new teachers by saying like a smooth running classroom, and I don't want them to think like, oh, it has to be perfection and
No,
nothing goes wrong.
because there's no such thing really as a perfect classroom.
Mhm.
It's nice that you could be able to sit, say, with four students at a small group while everybody else, is playing in their centers, and you don't have to be consistently calling out their names. That's also a way of your classroom running smoothly. But yeah, there are moments where I've had, and it's expected, you're going to have a child that has behavior issues, and you have to consistently work with them.
And even with that, with those moments don't cancel all the progress that you've made throughout the year, right?
Right.
Like it's just those particular moments, and you found a way how to navigate those moments. But that does, just because, and I want to keep saying this because I don't want a new preschool teacher to think like, oh, because something like this is happening, everything's not working. And that's not the case. It's this
Mhm.
particular moment at this particular day. This child is having a hard time. We work through it, but that doesn't mean that everything that I've worked on or that they've worked on is, in the trash, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I totally agree. And if you're lucky, if you do have an assistant, that makes a big difference as well. Also, too,
Mhm.
when you're working together,
Mhm.
it makes a really big difference.
So you mentioned assistants, and I know that, so there were some years that I did have an assistant, and there were other years where I didn't have an assistant. And I thought that it was super important. And I've also been an assistant, throughout the years that I've worked in a classroom. So I know what it feels like to have a teacher who embraces what you bring, and then teachers who just want you to clean up the tables and, you know, um, accidents and stuff like that. They want you
Yeah.
to do that. So, and such a big part of classroom management is the relationship between when you do have another person in the classroom. Your classroom management depends also on that relationship a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you, or how have you built a partnership with your assistant?
One thing with me when it comes to assistant, and me being a former assistant myself,
Mhm.
I firmly believe in teamwork. When you do have an assistant, you have to think of, okay, you guys are a team. It's nice to inform, like my assistant now, I let her know what's going on in the classroom, what rules to follow. And I also listen to her ideas. When we first started working together, because this is our second year working together,
Mhm.
right away I let her know, look, this is your classroom.
Mhm.
It's not only my room, it's yours as well. You have ideas, I want you to share it with me, and vice versa. I said, we're going to work together. with the children, running this classroom. I was like, you're not here to, I'm not going to have you here. Oh, you got to clean and so on and stuff. I don't believe in that. I was like, I know how it is to be a teacher assistant because I was one,
Right.
before. I don't look down at you. We're up here together. It's all about teamwork, and a lots of communication. You have to have a lot of communication with your assistant. So that way they get an understanding of what's going on in the classroom, because there's going to be times where you're going to get unexpected visitors. So the whole thing is that you basically, when that visitor comes in, you don't want them to see who's the teacher and who's not the teacher. That they can't tell the difference. You get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because children do sense when there's issues between the teacher and the assistants. Children know that.
Mhm.
They feel it,
Right.
you
Right.
know.
Okay, so let's change topics. Let's move and talk about classroom management philosophy. So, because this is a classroom management channel, I do want to, find out, well, what is your philosophy? What are the things that you build your classroom on?
By having a transition plan, routine, classroom layout,
Okay.
communicate
Okay.
behaviors, expectations. Students know also too, in the center areas, how many students are expected in each center, like 3, 4 block area, 4 for art, that sort of example. The same, like if we're lining up to go outside, students, they know to line up either on footprints that I might have on the ground, on the floor, I should say, or stand on the tape, a blue tape.
Okay. I like that. I like that because those are a lot of the things that I talk about on this channel. I talk about transitions and rules and procedures and stuff like that. School is about to start for you. In how many weeks? How many weeks are the kids gonna
In about two weeks.
oh my goodness. Wow.
But I return back next week, next
Next
Thursday.
week. Okay.
Hmm.
So how are you preparing? Like, what are some of the things that you are thinking about that you need to, like, okay, I need to do this in my classroom. I need to make sure that this is set up for them in terms of like classroom management stuff. Like, what types of things that are you and your assistant preparing, or how are you preparing for that?
Well, first, I want to admit that when I first started working in this field, when it came to setting up for the first time, of course, and I'm sure a lot of teachers probably in the past, they were more focused on, decorating the classroom and so on. But it's a lot more to that as the years go by. So like with me, I'm making sure that, I have my lesson plans ready. I have my classroom rules ready, making sure all the paperwork for the parents when they come in, to fill out, having the children's cubbies named, because we do get the names of the children in advance, making sure the centers, the updated layout of the classroom, those type of things, and especially their names on, on the area rug where we do meet, per circle.
Okay. And I'm glad you mentioned that about the decorating. And just for any new teacher, there's nothing wrong with decorating.
No.
Like, that's one of the exciting things, coming in, especially at the beginning of the year, is to decorate your class. But, you're hearing it from a veteran teacher, Lily, and you're also hearing it from me, plenty of times, that it's not just decorating.
Yeah.
Your
Usually, yeah.
class.
Yes. Usually my assistant, she would take over, the decorating,
Mhm.
and I'll take care of, the other stuff that's going to be used for throughout the whole school year, and making
Right.
sure that, we have the proper toys out, the labels on the actual shelves. That way, when it's time for the children to clean up, they know where the pictures go. That's very important to have. Making sure you have all your materials, and not meaning by, I guess, decorations, but what you're going to teach, say, for that week or the following week. You
Mhm.
always want to make sure that you're going to be prepared, because usually, like the first day of school, it's usually chaotic. You're not going to get into a whole full lesson, but as for the first day of school, while you're sitting for the first time with the children, just having different songs and stuff, and just explain to them, the rules and everything,
Right.
that goes along, and just giving them a whole tour of the classroom, and then just pointing out how many children are in the centers. Yeah, the
Um,
5 things, rules, schedule, cubbies and their names on the rug.
so the one thing about Miss Lily that I that I admired was how creative and artistic she was. And I've gone to her quite a few times, for her to make something for me when we were working in the same school. So I know that you had something that you want to share that helped you engage your students as well as manage the class. What is it that you brought to share with us?
I actually made this bee. This bee, one time I was doing a theme, I was relating with insects, and with children, everything has to be visual, especially 3-year-olds. I didn't happen to have a bee. So since I like to make stuff, I happen to have a black glove. I have these huge googly eyes and of course some felt. So what I did, the kids didn't know I had this. I told the children that I had a little friend, but my friend was very shy. So I took my friend and I hid my friend behind me. I was like, I have a surprise. I was like, but she's scared to come out. So of course, I would pretend on like this, and then the kids would get all excited. I was like, we have a problem. And the kids would ask me what? I was like, she needs a name. So, and then that's when the children would come, with different ideas for her name. So we end up naming her Bella B. And that's her name. But they love it. They'll actually even go on their own and play with it themselves.
So when after you introduced it, how did you use it? Like you said you used it in your theme during insects.
Insects, yes. And I even had it even like display. I was like, look, Bella's watching you. She wants to see how everybody's sitting nicely on the rug. Because and then if you start making all this noise, you're gonna scare her away. So it actually got their attention. You'd be
Mm,
surprised how many ways you could get the children's, attention. Because that's how,
mhm,
like I mentioned to you before, one thing that I do, like if I'm reading the story, if they're losing interest, I'm gonna start throwing their names in
mhm.
that story. So they'll start looking at each other like, wait a minute, confused. And that's when I'm like, okay, I got their attention, their focus.
I
And that
love that idea. I love that idea of
Mhm.
putting the child's name in the story that you're reading. And if you do try it, I want you to put in the comments if you tried it and how well it went.
Mhm.
So did you use the B? You said that it got their attention, so they were able to focus and stuff like
Yes, I have a big easel. So I had the bee after the children named the bee for me. I took the bee and I put her on the easel. And like I said, so she could watch over the children,
that.
during that time. And then I've noticed afterwards, while the children were in their centers, there will be a few children that will go on their own and start playing with this bee.
Oh, okay.
They'll look at the colors, the stripes, and so on.
Oh, that's good.
And sometimes they'll do comparison. You'd be surprised. Like, and one thing I could say, teachers, it's always good to document as to pictures. I'm one, I love to take pictures. And I even display it, in the classroom so that way the kids could see themselves,
Mm.
of what they were doing,
Mm.
So those are things that I would like document and they get to see that.
Right, right. I like how, because that was actually going to be the last question was going to be like, what other tips, or if you could think of any other tips to give to new teachers. So I like that documenting and taking pictures. I used to love taking pictures too.
Yes, I'm a
Yeah.
big picture person and I love having it displayed because you'd be surprised while you're taking those pictures and once they're printed out, it's like, wait a minute, this child actually did this, like things like that. But yeah, you'd be really surprised,
Oh, yes, I
you know.
love it. So thank you, Miss Lily, for
You're welcome.
sharing your wisdom with us. And we hope that you have a wonderful school year. This will be
Thank you.
20, this will be 29 or this will be 30?
In this field, we consider 29. Yes. But
This
at my job, yeah, at my job, it'll be considered 6 years.
6 years
But
at that job, but 29 overall.
yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yes.
Well, you have you need to celebrate for that 30th.
I know.
Like
Next year.
celebrate big. Yeah. Have a wonderful school year and
Thank
we
you.
will see you around.
Thank you.
Bye.
I'll see you. Bye.